February 17th, 1919. New York City, Fifth Avenue. Hundreds of thousands of people lined the streets. They had come to see heroes return from the Great War. White regiments marched past first. Cheering, flowers, ticker tape. Then came the 369th Infantry Regiment, all black, from Harlem, New York. The band struck up a new tune, a strange, swinging rhythm the French had taught them. Jazz. For the first time in history, jazz echoed down Fifth Avenue. And something strange happened. The cheering stopped. Silence fell over the crowd, because America didn't know what to do with black soldiers who had just terrified the German army for 191 straight days. The Germans had a name for them, Höllenjäger, Hellfighters. But in their own country, they were still second-class citizens. This is the story of the most feared American unit in World War I, and the country, Camp Whitman, New York. The United States had just entered the war. Black men rushed to recruiting stations. They wanted to prove they were just as American as anyone else. But the Army had other plans. They created the 15th New York National Guard Regiment. All black officers, all black soldiers, then immediately started dismantling it. White officers replaced the black ones. They weren't given rifles, they trained with wooden sticks. One recruit wrote home, "We drill with broomsticks because they say there aren't enough guns. They have plenty for the white regiments." When they finally shipped out to France, the Army didn't want them fighting. They were assigned to labor battalions, digging trenches, unloading ships, cleaning latrines. Because in 1917, the idea of black men with guns terrified white America more than the Germans did. France, January 1918. The French army was bleeding to death. 1.4 million dead. Entire villages of men wiped out. They took one look at the 369th and said, "Give us those Americans. We don't care what color they are." On March 21, 1918, the 369th went into the line with the French 16th Division. They were issued French helmets, French rifles, French rations, even French wine. And for the first time, they were treated like soldiers. The French commander told them, "You are no longer laborers, you are poulies now, French soldiers." And something awakened in those men from Harlem. They renamed themselves the Harlem Hellfighters. The German army was launching its spring offensive. Stormtroopers, flamethrowers, artillery walking forward like a wall of death. They expected French lines to crumble. Instead, they met the Hellfighters. 191 consecutive days in combat. No other American regiment, white or black, came close. They never lost a man captured, never gave up a foot of ground. German prisoners started telling terrifying stories. They fight like devils. They come out of nowhere. They don't retreat. One captured German officer wrote in his diary, "We attacked the French sector expecting a breakthrough. Instead, we met American Neger soldiers. They fought with a fury I have never seen. We lost 300 men in one morning." The Germans started calling them Blutlustige schwarze Männer, bloodthirsty black men. But the name that stuck was Hellfighters. May 14, 1918, 2 a.m. Private Henry Johnson and Private Needham Roberts were on listening post duty. Just two men in a hole in the ground. 24 German raiders crept through the darkness. A sniper shot Roberts in the leg. Johnson opened fire with his French rifle. Click. Jammed. The Germans rushed them. Johnson stood up, 5'4", 130 pounds. He fought with grenades, then his rifle butt, then a bolo knife. He was shot, stabbed, clubbed in the head. He kept fighting. When French troops found them at dawn, 4 Germans were dead. 21 were wounded. Johnson was sitting on a pile of empty cartridges, smoking a cigarette.
his face slashed open, 21 wounds in his body. He looked up and said, "I was right here when you left me, sir." France awarded him the Croix de Guerre with gold palm. First American ever. America? Nothing. The Hellfighters kept fighting. Septic Run, Mason and Champaign, the Meuse are gone. Everywhere they went, the Germans learned to fear the night, because the Hellfighters patrolled like ghosts. One soldier, Sergeant William Butler, captured 11 Germans single-handed. Another, Corporal Horace Pippin, kept fighting after being shot through both arms. He later became a famous painter, painting the war he wasn't supposed to fight. The French gave the entire regiment the Croix de Guerre, an honor almost never given to foreign units. Their regimental flag became one of the most decorated in the war. And still, American newspapers barely mentioned them. When they did, it was with suspicion. One headline read, "Negro troops showed too much familiarity with French women."
February 17th, 1919. The parade. The Hellfighters marched up Fifth Avenue. The band played jazz. People stared in silence. No cheers, no flowers. One white soldier in the crowd muttered, "They shouldn't be allowed to march with real soldiers." When they reached Harlem, the silence broke. Their people came out by the tens of thousands, cheering, crying, throwing flowers. James Reese Europe, their bandleader, conducted the first jazz performance ever in Carnegie Hall. But the victory was bittersweet. That same summer, 1919, America exploded in race riots. Red Summer. Black veterans in uniform were beaten, lynched, burned alive, for having the nerve to wear the uniform of a country that wouldn't protect them. Part 8 of 9. Henry Johnson came home a hero to France and a nobody to America. He died in 1929, broke, forgotten, buried in an unmarked grave. It took until 1996 for America to award him the Purple Heart, 2015 for the Medal of Honor. President Obama said, "We should have given this to him a century ago." The 369th's commander, Colonel Hamilton Fish, a white man, spent his life trying to get them recognized. He said, "I am proud to have commanded the finest regiment in the war and ashamed of how my country treated them." The French never forgot. In Paris, there's a street named after Henry Johnson. In Germany, old veterans still whispered about the Höllenjäger. Part 9, ending. The Hellfighters fought for a country that wouldn't fight for them. They terrified an empire that had conquered Europe, while their own nation treated them like criminals for wanting equality. They proved on the battlefields of France that courage has no color. But America took nearly 100 years to admit it. The Germans learned in 1918 what America refused to accept until 2015. The Hellfighters weren't second class. They were the best America had, and the country that feared its own heroes the most. This is their story, the story America tried to bury, but the battlefields of France will never forget.